I'm Matt Chapman.
My name is Jean Cal.
Hi, I'm Anna.
My name is Johan Pelletier and I'm 22 years old.
I'm sorry. Oh, what is one of the biggest problems that you have seen in Paris?
I mean, even as a Frenchman, it has been pretty hard to meet new people outside of the group I already know.
All right, let's pause and back up a second. So Kelsey and I have actually been living in Paris for about a month now with a couple of our friends. And as international students, we felt like outsiders. In fact, we've been having trouble meeting French friends. So when our friend Johan, who we met in our previous program in the States, mentioned that he has trouble too, well, we became curious to the topic.
Yeah, and speaking on our last program, it seemed really easy for internationals to make friends with people from the US, and I kind of expected that. I think we both did, and it's been a bit more of a challenge than we thought.
Yeah, so let's get back to the video now so we can see what's going on.
Group I already know.
And why do you think that is?
I mean, Paris is a big city, so I don't really know how to say, but like everyone is already doing their own thing. And you cannot just really, like, if you're at a bar, everyone is already in a group and it's hard to just go somewhere. And it's also really hard to find a club to do anything because there's too many people. I've been trying to join a basketball club. It's literally impossible to join a basketball club. So it's hard to join clubs. Most of the people already have groups because it's big enough. And you start entering like some kind of circle where you just do your stuff and then go home, and then it's getting harder and harder. So I feel I would say that's a pretty big issue.
For past months, I would say if you live here, it's totally fine. Because if you go just shopping or buying food, like a grocery shopping, they probably don't know English and they'll be nice to you. But if you want to fit into a group of friends, especially for like a French group, I would say pretty difficult because I can't speak French.
So, have you been able to make any French friends yet?
I tried it once in a class with a girl, and of course the conversation was fine, but I stay in the United States for a year, so I try to use the same way as like I should to the American, like, hey, you want to hang out with us, like my friends and I, and she didn't reply. Yes, unfortunately.
So if the problem is difficult for you as a Frenchman who's grown up in France and has lived in Paris for a little while, do you think that the problem is even more difficult for internationals?
I feel like in my experience, it'd be really hard just because I haven't met almost any internationals while I was in Paris. I just stayed with the French.
It's been a little bit of a struggle to make French friends. I tried out for the volleyball team here, and I went there and they were only speaking French, and I am not at a fluent level of French yet, so that was a little difficult to understand what was going on. And at the very end of the practice, we were splitting up into groups to do a scrimmage against each other, and it turns out that someone had joined in a little bit later in the practice and essentially took my spot where I would have been in the teams. So I just sat off to the side by myself for the last 30 or so minutes of the class.
Yeah, so they didn't rotate you in with other teams?
No, the coach didn't even notice that I was sitting over there in the corner.
But I think if you are an international student in a French school, whether or not you speak French like myself, or if you don't speak French, I think it is commonly known that it is quite hard to make friends. Just because of the language barrier, and I think people have a lot of connections to Paris, they have a lot of friends here, and they can seem really insular.
And is the question why, or is it harder for internationals? So
Yeah,
it's definitely harder for internationals to meet French people. I would say as internationals, it's easier to meet other internationals.
So then, what about if you don't know French? So, we just had the experience of ordering in French, and I didn't understand anything. So then Jean spoke in Mandarin Chinese.
Yeah, I
to help out.
translated.
He translated.
Yeah, it would definitely be like really, really hard to meet French people. Sorry, what's the question exactly?
So I've been to an American shop with a friend of mine, and we were talking English because we don't know French. Of course, we're in Paris, and it was clear that we didn't know French, but actually the guy just spoke French with us.
Yeah.
Yes, it's hard. Almost impossible. It is impossible. I mean, it's never impossible. Look, I mean, you've met some French people through me because you know French. There's enough people in Paris where there are some French people who are really into American culture or into any culture you want. So you can definitely meet some people, but it won't be the average French, I feel like. But you can definitely meet French people, even though it's really hard.
Parfait.
That's the wrong answer.
No, that's perfect.